But firefighters are going to make sure that it doesn't. They're going to keep it hopefully right where it's up. But now there's another flare up there on the side of that hill. Let's send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Sid, thank you very much for that live report from where you are located just off the 5 next to this neighborhood in Castaic. We're talking about the Castaic fire there, which is at 20 acres. And you do see one home that is going up in flames. We don't know exactly if it's destroyed. But let's take you back to Canyon Country. That is the Tick fire. That began shortly after 1 p.m. near Tick Canyon Road. The blaze spread rapidly, growing from 200 acres in the size to now over 850 acres. Evacuations have been ordered for homes west of the fire near Sierra Highway to Soledad Canyon. Also mandatory evacuations from Soledad Canyon Road to Shadow Pines Boulevard along the 14 freeway.
And now SIG alerts. Northbound I-5 closed at Halsey Canyon for the foreseeable future. Use State Route 126 westbound to the 101 as an alternate. And Soledad Canyon off-ramps are closed in both directions on the 14 freeway. DC-10s, by the way, we saw them, these super scoopers as well, water-dropping helicopters, and several hundred firefighters have been called in to combat the flames. An evacuation center is open at Golden Valley High School in Santa Clarita. By the way, Orange County Fire is supporting the fire efforts in Los Angeles County, sending 7 strike teams, a total of 35 engines in to help out in fighting this fire, as well as the Castaic fire, which they're calling the Old Fire.
Absolutely, and we do have live team coverage of this fire taking place. We do have reporters fanned out to the area. Let's go to Leo Stallworth. He's live in Canyon Country. Leo, very tense situation for the residents here.
Those plastic ones, I believe.
Oh, my goodness. Just a measure of disbelief when you look at how many water drops these firefighters have made in this area, precision water drops, and they'll beat the flames down, and again, those flames will reformulate, come back again like a roaring dragon, and then they'll have to come in again and beat them back. And Paul Kaneen, you've been standing here watching this firefight, and we were just saying, man, it's like a fire-breathing devil up there. The flames won't just lay down; they're stubborn.
No, those fire helicopter guys, those are rock stars, man.
They are rock stars. Yeah.
They do incredible jobs.
We can't say that enough, and you live in this area, man, and I cannot imagine how concerned you've been seeing those flames formulate and some of them coming up pretty high and just racing down the hillside. How concerned are you?
Not much you can do. Just pray. You know, and do what you can. Help your neighbors. That's about it.
Okay, and from what you're looking at right now, do you think they've got this thing licked, the best of it, or you got that big question mark out there?
If there's no smoke, they got the best of it.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that they have the best of it, man. Yeah. And again, as Sid Garcia was saying, and Paul Kaneen and I will echo the same thing. These firefighters are amazing. Those precision water drops from the fixed-wing aircraft and those choppers, sky cranes, or whatever those big grasshopper-looking things are, just amazing.
Yeah.
To see them come
in the winds. It's got to be.
The winds are erratic, just knocking the flames every which way but loose. And then you've got the embers coming in, and it's been like the overcast, dark skies. And these they still. It looks like we got a water drop maybe coming in just a second.
High up there,
pretty high up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you got a few flames right up there, Paul, and hopefully they're going to make a drop on that and put it out.
Boy, that's and this one settled down finally.
Yeah. Well, they had to pound on it.
They did.
Man.
They did.
You know what I mean? And this is what they do.
Yep, so, that's what God bless our firefighters.
God bless our firefighters. And brother, good luck, man. You know, I hope, I hope the worst of it is over for your cul-de-sac here. We're on Kenroy Avenue here in Canyon Country, folks, and a lot of the residents have been standing out here with Eyewitness News, just watching this firefight and watching these firefighters just go right after those flames and beat them back time and again. And luckily, the homes are standing. You got a lot of charred grass up there, wildland grass, but no homes up in smoke, man.
Thank God. Yeah.
Thank God.
Thank you.
Paul, thank you, sir. Appreciate it, man. All right, so we hope the worst of it is over, but who knows? I'll send it back to you folks.
All right, Leo, thank you. Well, we have some distressing news to tell you. Yet a third fire has now broken up. That is, see in the distance, that plume of smoke, that's the Sepulveda Basin. So we're trying to get some information there, but as you can see, that fire is quickly picking up and throwing out a lot of smoke. So now we're dealing with 3 different fires. The Sepulveda Basin is the newest one that has just broken out. That's a live picture from Air 7, from one of our Air 7s. We're going to try to get on top of that. Oh, Jory is there. So let's check in with Jory, see if he has any information yet on this fire. Jory?
Yeah, we're actually headed that way right now to go refuel Air 7, and we can see that it is this is a sizable fire. We haven't got numbers on it yet. I think they're calling it the Basin Fire, but we're headed right towards it. And again, everything that we said about the second fire, the old fire, applies on this. Resources are already spread thin, and because it's so close, those resources in the area have already come to these 2 fires, and will now have to divert from the firefight on these 2 and now go to this third fire. Again, we talked about it. Conditions were so right for this to happen. Everything you needed for a bad fire day was there, the low humidity, the high heat, and the winds. And we have seen 3 different fires explode within just a couple hours of each other. And because they're still so fresh and the firefight is so active, it's really going to put a strain on resources as they have to divert once again to this fire. It doesn't, we're still too far away to see exactly if there are any structures in the area. You can see a lot of trees, maybe some open ground, and we're hearing no structures. But as we get closer, we'll be able to get a better look at exactly what the terrain is and what is happening there. But burning in the Sepulveda Basin, you have to wonder whether maybe this started from a homeless encampment or whether it just sparked somewhere way else. Again, we're still working on the origin for all of these fires and might not know for quite some time. But 3 fires burning simultaneously, and resources are stretching perilously thin.
The flames, you can see them now in the tremendous amount of brush that's in that area. And just to remind folks, a couple of months ago, we saw a pretty fast-moving fire hit this area when it came to some homeless encampments. In fact, several people, I can't remember the exact numbers, dozens, perhaps hundreds, they had to get them out of there quickly because the fire spread so quickly, Colleen. And this is a dangerous situation where, yeah, there may not be a whole lot of structures in that area, but there's certainly fuel, there are freeways nearby, and there are homeless encampments in those bushes and that brush. So a lot of concern going on right now. A 3rd fire has now broken out here in the Los Angeles area. And
the conditions just couldn't be worse with the red flag conditions taking effect right now. But again, David, we were watching it the last time when we saw it in the Sepulveda Basin, the last fire that happened in that homeless encampment. People were rushing, but there was some abandoned cars in there. There was quite a bit of fuel that was able to burn. So again, this is really letting off a lot of smoke. A lot of our viewers, I'm sure, are watching this very concerned. As of right now, Jory did say there were no structures threatened. Again, we do not know how this fire started. We don't know how any of the fires, the 3 fires that we were watching, the Castaic fire, the fire the Tick fire in Canyon Country, as well as this fire in the Sepulveda Basin. So
major freeways, the 101 and the 405 at rush hour could be affected by this depending on where the fire is, how quickly it spreads, and the direction of the smoke and how thick it is. So the 101 and the 405, always a nightmare, especially on a Thursday evening, one of the worst commuter evenings going in the week. And here we are dealing with a 3rd fire. So the concern, of course, is getting the right resources here. Now, Jory was over that neighborhood in Castaic, and that neighborhood had to deal with these tremendous flames going right up to the homes for a good half hour, 45 minutes before firefighters could get to that one. We're going to monitor this situation to see how quickly firefighters can get on top of this one as well. Resources are a major concern. By the way, Dallas Raines, he's joining us as well. He's watching this closely. Dallas, I do notice, though, the plume of smoke seems to be going straight up in this area.
A little bit less wind there, David, than up in the hills above Castaic, but they're still getting 15 to 25, 30-mile-an-hour winds down that area. And one thing about that area, too, it's a lot hotter. I mean, it's in the low 90s down in that area, where up in Castaic, it's still running about 80, 82, 83. Humidities are ridiculously low. We had forecast this about a week ago, 4, 5, 6% relative humidities in that area, Colleen, and we don't see any recovery tonight at all. So there'll be no recovery from moisture, very little recovery from wind. We will see an improving meteorological condition, weather conditions, starting after lunchtime tomorrow. We're going to hold those red flags into the afternoon and maybe into the evening tomorrow. We'll see about Saturday, but right now the winds will definitely be going down.
Well, that's positive
That helps a
information.
lot.
That
Yes,
certainly
it really does.
But
Right.
you know what? They started out not too strong earlier this morning, Dallas in some areas, and then they just kicked up. So
Right. The forecast was pretty accurate with that, Colleen. We had forecast around 1, 2 o'clock in the morning we'd start getting those winds, and that was pretty much on the money. And they will continue to blow through the evening, so we won't see any change there. It will only abate during the afternoon tomorrow. Then you'll see a break in the winds. It's still going to be very hot and very dry, even after the winds back down tomorrow afternoon. It's still very hot and dry.
Yeah, so we have to be concerned with those winds continuing for the better part of another day. In addition to that, we are dealing with these 3 fires, and who knows what's going to break out after this, Dallas.
That's right. We don't know because we know there's no lightning, so we know lightning is not starting the fires. But we do know this, that they can, wherever they are ignited in this type of weather condition, it is a handful, a major problem for firefighters.
Yeah, so this is a lot of concern. That's a dramatic shot right there. I think that's the 101 freeway, and you can see it's stacked up on one side. The southbound side is a little thinner. Not sure the reason for that, but it is dynamic to see those flames and all that smoke coming up in those trees with the 101 freeway sitting right there. Excuse me, that might be the 405. That might be the 405. I'm sorry about that. So let's go back to Jory Rand to get some clarification on what we're looking at. Jory?
We are flying right above the 405 right now, going south towards the south of the San Fernando Valley and approaching this fire. We're actually flying right below. We're approaching the approach to Burbank Airport as we see a plane head overhead. We're trying to see if there are any structures. We're told there are no structures threatened in this area, so it might just be the wild area in the basin. And but it is raging pretty good. Again, this is the 3rd fire that we've seen break out since about 1 o'clock today, and it is raging as it approaches. I think this might be the wildlife basin inside the park here, if I'm not mistaken. But it just continues to go up and spread in size. Again, I think we're still waiting on the numbers on this fire, just exactly how large it is and when it started. But it just looks like open fuel and nothing to stop it as it spreads in every direction, guys.
There's a wildlife reserve that sits just off the 405. The only good news about that, there are 2 water sources there in the basin that if firefighters can get some air support there are a couple of resources. In fact, you could see a little bit on the left-hand side of your screen. You could see some water sitting right there. I think that's what is part of that wildlife reserve. So perhaps they could use that as a water resource. There's also near the Sepulveda flood control basin, there's another water resource in that area as well. So they can hit this thing from the air and hopefully take care of it quickly. The problem is, what do they have left to hit it with, considering what's going on in Canyon Country and Castaic? Firefighters are already spread thin. And Jory, again, he is trying to get to refuel over Van Nuys Airport. So this is on his way back. So he's getting closer and closer and getting a better idea on what is actually. Yeah, go ahead, Jory.
If this is that wildlife sanctuary, it's actually a stopover. They built this recently for birds to stop over during their migrations. And you can see, I think that's. I'm trying to get the road, Burbank Woodley Avenue that cuts through the middle of that park.
Yeah.
So to the right is Woodley that cuts straight up through. This is just wildland. And this is a reserve that they've left here. And if you've ever walked through there, it's a nice, peaceful area that, land animals and birds use to just kind of, for birds, it's a stopover in their migration. But for wildlife, it's just an area where you're in the middle of a big city like Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley where they can just kind of be cut off from human interaction. And so it's a shame if it is that wildlife reserve that they're losing this habitat. They say migration on both directions. This is used for wildlife and fowl as they make their way through. You can see all kinds of birds if you ever head there. And it's just a shame if this habitat is lost. Right.
And in fact, you can see some birds flying over it right now. And this is a migration season as we go from fall into winter. We're seeing a lot of migrating birds. But that is a good point, Jory. And this sits only a few hundred meters from the 405 as well. So we're going to have to watch that situation, see if it affects traffic as well as folks are trying to get home this evening. And it's also near the Sepulveda Dam. So if you're familiar with that, going down the 405, right near where the 405 and the 101 intersect, That's the area that we are dealing with.
Yeah, David, as we hit 4:30 right now, we are talking about several fires breaking out right now. We are talking about the most current one in the Sepulveda Basin. We're talking about that burning. It's not threatening any structures, though, right now.
We don't know actually what is threatened in that area yet. So you can see that's a live picture from Jory's helicopter as he is flying nearby. We're just starting to get information on that. 3 fires we're dealing with right now. The Basin fire, that's the one right there in the Sepulveda Basin. We're also dealing with the tick fire that's in Canyon Country and the old fire that's in Castaic. I think, is it a 4th fire now?
Yeah.
A 4th fire now. Yeah, we're getting word of a 4th fire. I'll try to get some more information on that as well. So all in the middle of this wind event that is going to be going on for a better part of a day. Yeah,
Jory Rand, you're live above in Air 7 HD. You're over the Sepulveda Basin. The Basin fire is what they're calling it. And we were saying that we didn't think about any structures being threatened, but we do see some, obviously.
This is the Valverde fire that we're seeing right now. That's the 4th fire that we are talking about, Colleen. So the Valverde fire, the Basin fire, the tick fire, and the old fire. All of those are going on simultaneously. The Valverde fire seems to be the least dangerous or damaging of the 4 fires that we're dealing with now. Back to the Sepulveda Basin. That's the Basin fire. And, yeah, we're trying to get closer, but you could see already the tremendous amount of smoke that's coming out of that area. Dallas has already pointed out that it's a lot hotter here in the basin, and there are freeways nearby. Plus, we believe that this might be a wildlife reserve. Yeah, well, actually, you're seeing a super scooper right there making its way there. So usually, like we were talking about, they're usually twin super scoopers. So hopefully we'll see them make a pretty good and pretty effective water drop as they get closer to this. But again, we know they can drop about 1,600 gallons.
Unfortunately, Colleen and David, I think the scoopers are coming into Van Nuys Airport to refuel and not to water drop. And so unfortunately, what looked like it could have been a good pass on this fire is just going to, the scoopers are just going to, it's an ironic pass over this fire. They're not going to be able to hit it on this run. And you have to wonder, once they take off again and they're able to refuel, whether they'll attack this fire or return to some of the fronts where homes are more threatened.
Right. Well, at least they know it's, they're aware of it. They're flying right through it. Maybe they could do a couple of passes, but we don't know. There might be a priority when it comes to firefighters because there are other homes that are being threatened right now in the tick fire and the old fire. Jory?
I'm sorry, guys. I've got radio traffic here.
That's okay. Yeah, Jory is dealing with some situations. He's about to land at Van Nuys Airport so he can refuel. We do have a second Air 7 that is up and about. It has been flying over Canyon Country and Castaic as well. You see on the left-hand side, those are the flames from Jory's camera, Air 7 HD. Okay. That is a map on the right-hand side of the Sepulveda Basin recreation area. That's what we are trying to describe to you. And, yeah, where that fire is burning is right there on the Wildlife Reserve, which is only a couple of 100 meters from the 405 and near the 101 as well, right off of Woodley Avenue.
Yeah, I mean, what an absolutely stressful day for firefighters trying to get a handle on all these fires. Again, we are following 4 fires burning right now. One in Canyon Country, which is the tick fire. One in Castaic, which is, we know we saw that one at least burning with one home. And then we believe that one's called the old fire. And then we have the 2 fires, the Valverde fire, and then the fire burning in the Sepulveda Basin as well right there. So a lot of fires, a lot of smoke, I'm sure a lot of concerned viewers are watching this and residents trying to figure out where exactly are these fires burning because they are putting off so much smoke. Yeah, so we're going to try to get some more information as all these fires continue to burn. Of course, about 2 o'clock today, there's tremendous concern over the tick fire because it rolled through Canyon Country with such speed. Go ahead, Michael. 1,000 acres. We're getting word that 1,000 acres now is the tick fire. It exploded and it moved so quickly. Those winds were really pushing that fire. Colleen, we saw a number of structures that went down as well as some outbuildings. And that fire spread so fast, moving from about 200 acres and within a half an hour is pushing close to 1,000 acres. So the latest is it's sitting at 1,000 acres. And then just shortly after that, the Castaic fire broke out, and that was called the old fire. And that is the one that we saw going right up to some homes, and these homes did not have structure protection in place yet because firefighters were already spread thin. We're getting word that Orange County Fire is coming up to
Do the scoopers? They don't take off with full tanks, right? Really? They'll just fill up at the airport. There's a sky crane coming in from the left. Oh, he's coming in to refuel. Got some open flames if you want it. I heard nothing.